What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the latest episode of the slowest growing BattleBots podcast in all of creation. I am never popular host Jack Finney, once again bringing to you the most mediocre BattleBots podcast in all of existence. And across from me, acting as my co-host tonight, is a person with the highest principles and most generous spirit, someone who has lived his life in places with deadly creatures and insane folktales, and a Digidestined who would definitely be rocking the crest of friendship after a recent action. None other than my good friend Neoboo, coming to us all the way from over in Oregon. How are we doing today, Boo?
Hey, I'm doing good. I'm slightly less Australian than your normal co-host, but I'm looking happy to fill in.
Blessing or curse, you decide, America. I say that, but we've got one or two listeners from all over the world, so yes. Okay, yeah, so for those who are wondering, Mac is currently out of commission at the moment with a really, really bad cold, so as a result, Boo has stepped in as a last-minute guest star party member for this matter. And so, as a result, he will be helping me to cover this matter. Now, much like Mac and myself, Boo is a long-time veteran of being a fan of robot combat, having been watching BattleBots ever since it originally aired when he was quite young as well, didn't you, Boo?
Oh yeah. I have a lot of fond memories. I even had some of those old first era toys they had for Robot Wars and BattleBots and all those robot competitions. About smashing them together as a kid. It's great.
Nice. Yes, I used to have the Robot Wars ones myself. I never had any of the BattleBots ones, though. They didn't really have them over here. At least that I saw in shops, but I was also very poor as a kid, so maybe they did and I just couldn't afford them. Who knows?
I remember having a little biohazard that had a little pull chain to work the flipper.
Honestly, if I could, I would totally try and get hold of one of the old Kilohertz toys, because as you know, I'm a massive fan of John Reed, and yeah, so knowing that Kilohertz had a toy out there was freaking awesome. Since Kilohertz always performed really, really well in BattleBots, but it never did anywhere near as well in Robot Wars as it should. And then Terahertz came along and made history, so yeah. In any case, BattleBots Champions Episode 2. We covered the Golden Bolt tournament as before, and quite the lineup that we've got tonight. Opening up with what on paper is an absolute barn burner, the adorable and the indestructible, at least until it went up against Riptide, Blip and Black Dragon respectively. It was an interesting match on paper because obviously Blip has the very high-powered flipper, but at the same time, Black Dragon's shape is a little bit awkward for Blip to get under. So as a result, Kenny backs the Dragon due to weapon reliability, but it's a combo of that and Black Dragon's shape, as alluded to before, that really makes this fight. Blip does put up a very solid fight, to its credit, with the forks, and the weapon on Black Dragon does the work, however, after a good while, and Blip catches fire, ultimately gets counted out after another minute of fight back. But, you know, very good showing from both robots in this one, but yeah, Blip finally getting its ass beat by Black Dragon after a good prolonged fight back. It's a pretty good opener, in my opinion. Boo, did you have any thoughts on this particular bout?
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good opener too. It really seemed like the main struggle that Blip had in that fight was it just could not get underneath Black Dragon. It's hard, when you're a flipper bot, if you can't get that clearance, you aren't going to be able to do much. And even though they were pretty even for the beginning of that fight, all it really took was Black Dragon getting a couple of really good hits in there, and that was it. That was the internals got all messed up. You saw the Blip started to belch fire a bit as its flipper went up, and you could tell this was not going to go well for Blip unless it could pull out some kind of miraculous, corner flip or something to get Black Dragon immobilized, but just couldn't do it, and Black Dragon took the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the thing with Blip's weapon. It's obviously an incredibly powerful flipper, but the way that it's structured, where it has to get so much of itself underneath the other robot in order to be able to actually be able to kick up against them, it reminds me a lot of the old front-hinged flippers that you'd see on Robot Wars, where they would have to get largely underneath in order to be able to flip, rather than just do the edge flip like Blip should be able to do so on paper, but obviously the awkward shape of the machine makes that difficult. Of course, that's not usually a problem for them, considering how well the robot is driven, but they're up against one of the best teams in regards to driving in the sport in Black Dragon, and as you alluded to, Black Dragon, despite its reputation for being indestructible, obviously that weapon is a lot more potent than people really give it credit for, at least at first. So yeah, when they can get one or two good solid hits in, they can cause absolute havoc for machines. So it was a very, very well earned victory for them. And I thought it was a really good interview to follow up as well. Like, I really enjoyed Black Dragon's promo here.
And if I remember correctly, I watched this last night, and who knows how well I remember the things I didn't write down. Blip, Blip's builder and did mention that there'd be some changes coming the next time we saw Blip. So I'm curious what.
Oh, I'm very much looking forward to seeing
What they're going
what
to do,
Aaron
make
Hill's
some
able to
changes
do
to
with
make it a
that.
little easier for them to get underneath. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, Aaron Hill is an absolutely fantastic builder. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what innovations he can make with Blip this time. I'm also very much looking forward to seeing the team's next machine that has also currently been making some waves in BattleBots Destructiform, but that's something to come to later on, I would say.
I mean, they already have two great bots between Blip and because Tantrum was also one of his designs, correct?
That's correct. Yes, Tantrum.
Yeah.
Yes, Tantrum was his previous robot.
Yeah, so like they always had some really cool, really good robot designs. So yeah, if there's a third one coming, I'm curious what that's gonna end up being like too.
Yeah, I'm sure they've got one or two really good robots up their sleeve coming down the line. So. Right, okay, so second fight of the night, Mad Catter versus Bloodsport. Fresh from his Founders Award, Martin Mason trucking out with a brand new anti-horizontal configuration on Mad Catter. As alluded to, actually helped into design in this case by none other than Ray Billings himself. And when you get the King of Kinetic Energy helping you design anti-horizontal weapons, that means you're in for something special.
That's just about the best learning tree to be under when it comes to that. He knows what messes him up.
Oh yeah. Plus, Mad Catter's fought Tombstone before, and while it didn't win, it did actually put up a fairly solid fight. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed this particular anti-horizontal plow that Mad Catter was rocking for this fight, and of course we have Bloodsport coming out looking absolutely fierce and adorable with those whiskers on there, and even belching fire from its self-righting bar, and that was just such an awesome visual.
It's kind of a shame that we didn't get to see much of it though, because this was a very short fight.
Oh yes, Kenny had Mad Catter as the fave, and I agreed on paper, and then with one punch, a star was born. Calvin Eva with an absolutely brilliant sniper shot to one-hit KO Bloodsport using its own momentum. And yeah, Mad Catter really is the cat's meow in this fight. It's been a really rough season for Bloodsport. Like, obviously they did make it into the tournament itself, but overall the robot didn't perform anywhere near as well as it usually does. And considering the improvements they made to Bloodsport this year, that's saying something.
Yeah, I get sometimes you're gonna have off seasons, especially in something as technical as robot combat. So many little things can go wrong, as we see later in this episode. Hint, hint. That it can happen. Sometimes you just have a bad season, and I hope Bloodsport's one of those teams. I hope doesn't take it too down on themselves, because it really is, like, when it works, it is a very powerful robot.
Oh, absolutely. Like, it was actually one of the favorites in one of the previous tournaments, from what I remember. Because I believe it went 4-0 to get into the actual tournament, and then things just kind of, the wheels fell off the wagon, unfortunately, quite quickly for them. But I mean, we've seen that happen. We've seen that happen with other robots as well. Look absolutely unstoppable going into the tournament. Then the tournament starts, and boom, everything just goes ass over tea kettle, so to speak. Look at what happened with Quantum.
Right. It can happen. I was just thinking, it's like Bloodsport. It was always reminding me very much, and I feel like there was even one or two fights they've had before of like Ice Wave, and we've seen how powerful how successful that style of robot can be. So I have no doubt that Bloodsport's gonna be able to come back in the next seasons and do just fine.
Oh, definitely. Oh, that reminds me, I have missed Ice Wave. I still remember seeing it rip, I believe it was Vanquish in half in one of the first episodes of the reboot, and that was just such an amazing visual. It's too bad that it basically ended up killing Huge that season as well, and Huge never really recovering from that damage. Right as it was about to beat right as it was about to beat Bite Force, and then just fell apart. Oh. That was so unfortunate. They nearly killed that. Like they had it in them to kill the champ right around then. still, it is what it is.
The only other note I had about this match was simply the fact that the energy of I'm blanking on names, and I'll do this.
Martin Mason.
Martin Mason. Just the energy he has, like it rivals the energy of his vertical spinner, which is impressive because that is a very powerful spinner, and somehow he is filled with just as much energy.
Oh yeah! Yeah, he's got that classic Macho Man Randy Savage energy. He always has. I mean, we've seen it with the with the banners that people would make with him wearing the Macho Man's gear, and I love Martin Mason to death. He's such a stand-up guy. He does all of this just to like get his students really going in the world of engineering, but like he really does just bring so much to the world of robot combat. And he does so much behind the scenes too. He's a fantastic ambassador for the sport. But yeah, with this also becomes the knockout of the night frontrunner, because obviously it's going to be really difficult to top that with just one hit. But with that, we come to our next fight of the night, Malice versus Hijinks. Malice, a story of major improvements this season, and Hijinks, unfortunately for them, very much been on the back foot all throughout the season. Went 1-3 from what I remember, and its one win was considered quite lackluster as a result. No chance of it making it into the tournament.
And this fight did not go that great for Hijinks either.
Yeah.
It really did just feel... Yeah, it just a repeat of the issues. I mean, credit where credit is due. Malice perfectly figured out where's the weakness on Hijinks. It's those exposed wheels, gotten a couple of great shots in on them with its weapon, and just completely knocked Hijinks off balance. And it became, the point where its weapon's just scraping up against the bottom of the floor, and it really wasn't able to do anything. I'd argue most of the damage Hijinks got in on Malice was just from Malice itself running into Hijinks to attack Hijinks. It wasn't a lot of offensive motion from Hijinks this fight.
That's true. Now, credit where it's due, Hijinks did actually figure out a decent strategy at one point where it was able to use its tail to essentially feed Malice into its weapon. Unfortunately for them, it was a little bit too little and a little bit too late in that instance, because Malice ended up finishing the wheels and then the fight. But, while it wasn't overly competitive, I did find this to be a good strategic fight, and I always enjoy seeing Jen Herkenroder in action with her machine. Like, Hijinks, even if it ultimately doesn't perform that well that often, I love it for... it's a fantastic machine nonetheless. It's a brilliant piece of engineering, and it's absolutely stunning to look at visually.
Oh yeah, I love the design of it, and I do hope that they can, maybe work out some of the kinks, make it, find some more success in coming, bouts and in potential coming seasons as it continues to compete, But this definitely was not its night, unfortunately.
As for Malice, swiftly asserting itself in this fight, doing very, very well overall. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what more Malice can do in the future, and what certain other members of the Malice team might be doing in the future. After all, there are some rumblings of a particular machine that's being developed by one of the members of Malice that has gone on to do great things. But of course, we'll find out about that robot far down the line. I believe it's already applied for BattleBots this year and been accepted, and I'm very, very much looking forward to that machine.
I am too. It'll be interesting to see how it performs.
Especially what little footage I've seen of it, particularly when it went weapon to weapon with Triton. Oof, that was a tasty hit. But in any case, Whiplash versus Fusion. And oh boy. Where do we even begin with this one?
The same place every Fusion fight begins, with, I think, the people on standby with a fire extinguisher.
Oh god, boo, oh my god. I think you better pass me that fire extinguisher. I think that the podcast is on fire right now.
Again?
Oh god, no! This always happens. Oh god, right, okay, so, like, Mac, come on, you're in the background, step up, do something. Like, oh. This is the kind of quality that we have to put up with each time. Oh. Running everything on absolute overdrive, all for you people. Okay, it appears we're not in danger of burning to death anytime soon, so we can probably continue with this podcast. Right around the same time that Fusion very swiftly, goes up in a puff of smoke, as pretty much as soon as the fight starts off of one very solid plowing hit from Whiplash.
Well, really, all I can say about this fight is I'm glad this was on a tournament style show, so I got to see Whiplash in an actual fight later. Because this was just Fusion doing Fusion things. That bot is so cursed.
It really is, and I love Fusion. Like, it's an awesome machine. Like, the concept is
Cool
fantastic.
concept, yeah.
And, when it works, it does absolutely brilliant things. Yeah, it catches fire pretty much all the time, but it's had some absolutely amazing fights. It had an all-time classic with Witch Doctor, and it really looked like it was going to beat Minotaur in the early seconds of when they fought in the actual tournament. We thought we were about to see a major upset with that fight until just the robot burst into flames again.
I almost feel bad laughing about it because they've put so much work in building this robot. They don't want it to set on fire every time it enters the battle box, but it just happens.
It's a shame as well, because coming in on paper, Fusion would have had the edge with the damage category since, Whiplash was only rocking the lifter. But of course, Whiplash is such an incredibly sturdy machine that, even something as powerful as Fusion can barely put a dent in it. And yeah, with that, Fusion pretty much immediately combusts, gets propped up in the corner. But, even if the fight itself wasn't all that we hoped it would be, who was? Reese Ewart himself, remaining highly entertaining in his post-fight interviews.
At least he's always, he's always great on camera. That's something we can say.
Yeah, it's like something Mac and I have commented on a few times. Like, in early appearances, Reese really did not seem to be comfortable on camera at all. Like you could see that he was clearly very anxious. Like, didn't really want to be on camera if he could help it. But like, he's shown so much personality throughout this entire season. Like, he's been fantastic. He's very comfortable in front of the camera now.
Kind of turned that anxious energy almost into a character, into his personality on camera.
Oh yes, he's got such brilliant dry wit. It's all in his delivery, I find.
Yeah.
He's just a delightfully deadpan Eeyore energy.
Very much so. But with that, I believe that's the end of the initial round of 8, and we move into the semifinals of this
yes.
little one episode tournament.
And true enough, these semifinals do not disappoint. Mad Catter versus Black Dragon, on paper, an easy candidate fight of the night. And, it does not disappoint in any way. Mad Catter starts out super strong, some very solid hits, but then, unfortunately for them, within a few hits, right as they have Black Dragon on the back foot, they lose the weapon, and leaving it in a control bot position for the entire rest of the fight, while unfortunately for them, Black Dragon can continue to dish out hit after hit at that point. But even so, it's a great back and forth driving fight with some absolutely awesome collisions. We see Gassy Cat get absolutely sandwiched between the two. And ultimately, I believe the fight does end with Black Dragon on top, but Mad Cat are fighting back fiercely. It goes to the judges, and understandably, Black Dragon gets the decision win, but it's very, very tight.
Yeah, this was, all props to Mad Catter. Losing a weapon early on is never what you want to see inside the box, but did a great job of at least trying to keep it competitive, trying to win the control and aggression categories as best as it could, because it knew it wasn't going to be able to do much on damage, but just wasn't quite enough. I got a feel for them when you see the weapon on Mad Catter spin up at the very end of the fight. Like, great, now it works. Like, but great if that worked for the past 2 minutes, but okay.
Yeah, I feel like that's ultimately what cost them that fight. If that weapon had maybe worked a little bit longer, if they'd managed to get it going back before the last, 2 seconds of the fight ended, I feel like maybe that could have tipped the scales in their favor. I think that's a testament to just how brilliant Calvin Eba's driving was in this fight, because he stayed well in the game throughout the entire fight. Like, it was as close as it was when, one of the robots was down a weapon. That's saying something for Calvin Eba's fantastic driving ability.
Yeah, they might be a team made up majority of students, but I mean, they've got some real talent, especially on the driving side. Like, that's really impressive, honestly.
It does make sense. Calvin Eba is like very, very accomplished driver. Like, I believe he's won multiple championships in the lower weight classes with his own robot Lynx. But of course, that's a story in and of itself for another time, and I believe that's already been covered before. But yeah. Anyway, fantastic fight and front runner for fight of the night at this point. It's an understandable win for Black Dragon. Martin Mason is jubilant as ever in defeat. Like, this is a man who you can tell, like, obviously he would like to win the Giant Nut, but he's here for his students first and foremost. And yeah, just he's just everything wholesome about BattleBots. He's just absolutely someone you love to see.
Definitely one of my favorites.
And yeah, and the Black Dragon team as well. I think it helps that they're made up of students as well. So obviously, even if they're not his students specifically, Martin Mason going to be very, very supportive of them as well. Plus, I love the energy that the Black Dragon teams bring to the interviews after these as well. They're always a delight.
Oh yeah, something that a general statement to say about the modern era of BattleBots I think is maybe sometimes overlooked is just how lucky I think they are that so many of these teams are just good at being personalities on the camera. They really help add to the entertainment value of these moments between the fights, and that's something that isn't always there in these kind of competition shows. So it's maybe a little lucky almost on the for Discovery Warner that they found some really talented builders who also know how to put on a good show.
Absolutely. I mean, if there's any sport where the fans are going to really appreciate spectacle and the personality of the actual people behind the stuff, it's going to be BattleBots. After all, robot combat is great for this sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
With that, we come to the other semi-final fight. This time, a much more one-sided fight: Whiplash versus Malice, and this is a real opportunity for Manny Vasquez to showcase his driving skill in this fight. Not to say that Malice doesn't put up a decent fight, because it does, but, Matt is just absolutely surgical in his approach in this fight, and, he just does a fantastic job stacking and packing Malice when all is said and done.
I just wrote in my notes, if I was teach drivers about how to win on control, this is a match I'd show as an example. Just perfect driving, perfectly deflecting Malice's weapons energies back at them, and just using the entire box to its advantage. It really was a great showing as a driver.
Oh, absolutely. Matt Vasquez is on another level when it comes to driving ability. There are a lot of great drivers in BattleBots, as we've seen, and there's an absolutely elite tier. Matt Vasquez is definitely one of the people who's on that particular tier. I'd say others include the likes of John Reed, and so when you're being compared to John Reed in that regard, that's very, very high praise. Bonus points for him having beaten John Reed as well, so yeah.
He earned that praise.
Oh yeah, definitely. Let's see, was there anything else to discuss with this fight? It's just, it's not a beatdown. Like, Malice does put up a fight, but, there's only, very technical. Yeah. It's a very technical display by Matt Vasquez in this, absolutely surgical in the way that he, manages to prop Malice up in just the right position where it can't go anywhere. It's fantastic, and just, absolute testament to his skills as an overall roboteer. With that, sorry, you were saying?
I was just gonna say, with that, we see Whiplash goes back to the pits, puts the spinning blade back on, and gets ready for the main event against Black Dragon.
Oh yes, and Whiplash versus Black Dragon, the frequel. Another awesome driving fight on paper, and a shot at redemption for Black Dragon and a chance for Whiplash to assert its superiority on this matter. And oh, this is a fantastic bullfight of a match, head to head, awesome driving. Like, there's so many good hits from both machines. Like, it's neck and neck right from the start, right to the end. And oh, this is just magnifique in regards to fights. This is one of the best BattleBots fights ever.
Yeah, this was pure sumo action with saws. It is just two bots slamming into each other with their weapons, just pushing each other around, trying to get that angle, trying to get that positioning so that they can land that powerful shot, or in Whiplash's case, start get under and get a little bit of a flip off. Spoiler alert, this was my match of the night. I mean,
same.
You hope in a tournament setting, the final match between the two winners would end up being the best, and this delivered.
Oh, definitely. So yeah, it's like an awesome driving fight. Whiplash firmly takes control, does fight solid fight back from Black Dragon, but they come back super strong and land a massive hit that disables half of Whiplash's drive as well. Fight does end with Black Dragon on top, but with its weapon disabled, and obviously that's something very, very strong to consider here. And the decision ends up going to Whiplash to Matt's surprise. The Brazilians do take the loss quite well, although they do appeal this, albeit unsuccessfully. But, like, that's a fight where if you're going to appeal, that's definitely one to do so. Because, like, it was neck and neck. You won't know unless you try in this case.
Yeah, it was so close. My personal scorecard, if I was to have scored this, I would have given it to Black Dragon on a very slight lead in damage. Even though he did lose its weapon, it felt like it did more damage back to Whiplash. But I can totally understand how just lean towards Whiplash. Like, it was so close. It was like a point difference in my head. So I get it if the judges went the other way.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, personally, if I had to pick a winner in this fight, I too would have picked Black Dragon on the strength of its fight back, and the fact that when the fight ended, Whiplash had lost drive on one side, whereas Black Dragon's weapon maybe wasn't functioning at that point, but everything else on Black Dragon was still kicking absolutely fine. But of course, that's the double-edged sword of the new rule that was brought in, which I still feel has done far more good for this sport than any harm, that new rule, in regards to movement. Like, the only real casualty in that situation was Emulsifier when they fought Malice. Other than that, that's done a lot of good for the season, I feel.
Yeah, if anything, it's just led to more entertaining fights because they have to keep putting on the pressure. They can't just back off if they're, half movement.
Definitely. But yeah, with that, Matt Vasquez and Whiplash go moving on into the Golden Bolt tournament. And next week's one looks absolutely fantastic on paper as well. We get the return of Death Roll as well. Mac's personal favorite robot and one of my all-time favorite robots as well.
Yeah, a great bot, and it'll be nice to see how they do in this tournament, though there is some pretty tough competition in that bracket. It's not like they're the only veteran there.
Oh, yeah, definitely. If I'm remembering correctly, Beta's there as well. And we've also got Gary Jim with free shipping.
Yep, the return of free shipping. Going to be fun to see how he performs.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's the thing. You can never count out free shipping as well. As we've seen this whole season, like, maybe it didn't perform as well as it could have. And, obviously it got beaten pretty bad by Hydra. But overall, free shipping showed a massive improvement this season, in my opinion. So who knows? They could be one to watch next week.
Yeah. I have the... trying to find the bracket. And I cannot find it.
Plus, I feel like at this point, after Redemption last week, I think that goes to show that you never count any robot out in this competition anymore.
Yeah, 100%. Like, no one expected Shreddit Bro to win the first episode of this season. So
do so in such dominant fashion either.
Yeah, it's like the bot finally was doing what it was designed to do, and it proved that it could really do some damage. Uh, it could pack a punch.
Absolutely. But yeah, it just goes to show you never count any robot out in this show, with the exception of Doomba. But Doomba's a comedy robot, so yeah.
Yeah. The Doomba, but we love him. We love those comedy bots.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're what give the sport character. It's something I do miss. I love how like how high tech the sport is now, but I do sometimes miss the garage builds, which is part of why I really enjoy Rusty. Rusty has a lot of character. Too bad we haven't seen it back in a little while.
I was able to find the full first round bracket for next episode. If you want a quick rundown,
Very good.
we have Triton versus Gigabyte,
Hmm.
Double Tap
Interesting fight on
versus
paper.
Beta,
Yes, Beta versus Double Tap. I'm sure I will enjoy that fight.
Death Roll versus Slammo,
Yes.
and then free shippings matches against Mammoth.
Hmm.
Will be a
I feel like with its spinner, that's a very winnable fight for a driver as accomplished as Gary Jin.
It's true. Anytime though you go up against Mammoth, that you have to completely rewrite your play-book. You just is such a different robot than anyone else is doing.
This is true. I remember a couple of seasons ago when nobody gave Mammoth a chance against Copperhead, which looked invincible at that point, and just to everyone's surprise, Mammoth won that fight.
I'm very much a fan of some of the more unique designs, things like Mammoth, things like Huge.
Huge especially.
Anytime you see
this was
folks,
such a good year to be a fan of that.
Really was. Anytime you can see folks trying to think outside the box and go beyond the traditional idea of what makes a powerful combat robot, I love.
Plus, I love anything that goes against the meta at this point as well. It's why I really appreciated them highlighting how the meta has finally been broken with a Hammerbot and a machine like Huge having been what made the final two. When I say Hammerbot, I mean Hammersaw, but you get the point I'm making.
Yeah, it's not a traditional four-wheeled drum spinner. It's something unique.
Yeah, it's like I enjoy four-wheel drive vertical spinners, but seeing it oversaturated in the competition did kind of take a lot of the fun out of it for me for a while. It was the same way with Robot Wars. I found with the constant focus on flippers. It was like when damn near every robot had a flipper, it was like I just started to lose interest at that point.
Innovation is something that always keeps these kind of competitions alive, and so it's just great to still see.
It's why I love Hammerbots. They have character, and they're a design that you don't see that often anymore due to the way that it works. But when they, when you get a powerful machine like Beta or, other robots using the hammer saw configurations, I miss Blacksmith having the actual hammer. When it changed to a hammer saw, I felt like that was the end of an era.
Or I'm thinking back, even something like as silly as is Rusty with the pickaxe style, it's nice to see these different takes on what a combat robot could look like.
Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, it looks like next week's episode should be a pretty good one. And with that, we come to the end of the actual fights. What we can do now is our end of episode awards, as I'm sure you're familiar with. We usually start out with our knockout of the night, and I think it's pretty safe to say that one goes to Mad Catter versus Bloodsport.
Yeah, there was not much competition for that. That was a one-shot, one-kill, just beautiful blow by Mad Catter there. Knockout of the night, easy victory there.
Yeah, definitely the cat's whiskers on that one. Best driver easily has to go to Matt Vasquez for his powerhouse display in every single fight that he had. Easily, an absolute clinic in driving in every fight that he had tonight. Fantastic.
He's who I'm honestly at this point. He's who I'm rooting for when we get to the final tournament for the Golden Nut. He's someone who's never quite been able to secure a big tournament victory like this. And I really think he deserves it with just how talented of a driver he is.
And he came so close a couple of years ago as well when he made it all the way to the final two and then unfortunately got whomped by Endgame.
So it'd be really cool for him to get a little bit of redemption. I mean, he might Endgame's in the tournament, right? If I remember correctly, he's one of the ones who's in from championship victory.
That's correct, yes. Endgame is in by default for being a former champion, much like last year.
Might even get a chance at redemption depending on how the bracket shapes out.
I guess we shall see. Spike Dudley for underdog, or well, best performance in a losing effort would have to be Black Dragon for coming the closest to beating Whiplash, and some would argue that they did. Of course, that's not reflected in the actual outcome of the fight, but you know, definitely the best performance in a losing effort. Black Dragon was fantastic, and of course, getting all the way to the finals got to count for something there too.
I'd also like to give an honorable mention here to Mad Catter for their match against Black Dragon. I thought
definitely.
They did a really good job of still trying to find their victory condition in a fight that was going to be rough.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely an honorable mention for Mad Catter in that instance. And who knows? In another time, they very much could have won that fight as well. Underdog performance of the night, I would say, would be in something outside of the box here, would be Reese Ewart remaining the most entertaining promo on an episode that also happened to have Martin Mason.
That is a challenge. That is, he was the underdog in that competition, and he succeeded at being quite entertaining. So you know what? Maybe he does deserve it.
Yeah, I definitely give him that one. I mean, after all, in the past, we gave Anna Zolnikov the underdog performance of the night for hanging in there in interviews with Chris and Kenny and actually outdoing them when discussing the technical side of things. That time she did guest commentary.
Yeah, so yeah, give it to them. Give it to him. He deserves it.
Congratulations, Reese Ewart. You take home another award. We love you, buddy. Fun fact, Jake's actually listened to our podcast as well. So Right. And with that, we come to fight of the night, and I feel very comfortable giving that to Black Dragon versus Whiplash, with an honorable mention to Mad Catter versus Black Dragon as well.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, that fight was so close, constant action. No, there wasn't really much slowness. There wasn't the two robots both like crab walking at each other or anything. It was a hard fought fight.
Yeah, absolute nail biters of fights with some fantastic action in each. And yes, exactly the sort of fights that you want to see on a show as action-packed as this. So with that, we've covered our awards ceremonies for the night, and so we come now to the off-topic portion of the week. Originally, before Max throat failed him in this case, we were going to sing the praises of Christian Cage for his career resurrection in AEW. But considering these circumstances here, we're happy to talk about none other than the recently released and honestly already a frontrunner for one of the greatest games ever made, Baldur's Gate 3.
Now here's my question for you. Do we need to put a spoiler warning? Do we say, hey, if you're interested in Baldur's Gate 3 and you don't want to be spoiled, maybe this is the part where you step out, you enjoy all the conversation we had about battle bots? Because we're going to be talking about an amazing game.
Oh yes, we'll try and keep anything plot related to an absolute minimum, because honestly, everybody should go into this game as blind as possible. The only thing, obviously we can discuss stuff like game mechanics and everything, but obviously we'll keep the plot to a minimum. I've still only just arrived in Act 2, and I've already got nearly 50 hours on the game under my belt. It's that good. It's so addictive, and honestly, it's as close to a perfect game as you can get, in my opinion. And I'm not even halfway through yet.
Yeah, no, it is a game that makes me rethink my opinion on the genre. I didn't really play many CRPGs because I wasn't a big fan of some of the slowness of them. But seeing a really well done one and playing through it's oh no, wait, no, this is great. This is so entertaining. It feels so creatively empowering. The feeling that I can really build my character in a certain way, I can make these choices and really role play as a character as you would in a traditional Dungeons and Dragons game is just awesome.
Oh, yes. If you keep up with like the current edition of Dungeons and Dragons or Dungeons and Dragons at all, you will love this game. Like this is as perfect an implementation of D&D rules in a video game as you're going to get. And honestly, I was not expecting to be for the character creator to be as well, shall we say, in depth as it was.
It gives you options. It gives you a lot of options. This, by the way, this is a game that is at times dark and at times can be sexual. If you pursue that direction with your character, it's based off a certain level of what you would expect in a D&D game. And sometimes in a D&D game, you and the player sitting next to you decide that your characters have really come close to each other and want to have a good night.
Yeah.
I like that this game lets you do that.
This is a game that definitely does a great job of capturing the overall horniness of your average Dungeons and Dragons player. There are many opportunities for, shall we say, mischief in this game, I have noticed, and just some of the stuff that you can stumble upon, like, for example, a certain scene that takes place in a barn if you knock on the door, and it's like, oh, wow.
That scene.
Oh, but yes, it's like, without going into any of the plot, the story is incredibly well written. All of the characters are fantastic. Like, I love all of the companions so far. Astarion is amazing. Shadowheart is amazing. Karlach, I wish I had run into her sooner because otherwise I would be romancing her on my first playthrough, but next time. Or maybe I'll just change course and go with her in this one. I love Karlach. Karlach is amazing. And
It really is. It's all the characters are written so well. I think that's one of the things that really makes this game stand out compared to a lot of its contemporaries. Is just the level of effort they went in to write these characters. Not only that, like voice act all of this dialogue, and there is a lot of dialogue. My fiance fell in love with Astarion as a character. Very much their favorite character, and was looking it up, and there was literally like, I think it's like total, it was like 2 videos of all of the voice dialogue recorded for that character, and combined it was like 13 hours of voice dialogue just for one character.
Wow,
because there's
that is insane.
So many different permutations, because it's D&D, because they let you do so many things. Here's my favorite thing. This is I'm going to say a slight spoiler for how you first are introduced to the character of Astarion. Okay, so if you don't want to hear, step away just a moment.
Of course.
Astarion, when you first meet them, theoretically, they're just a character in the overworld. You can just kill them. You can just attack action on them. And if you do that, and then resurrect them, they comment on that.
Wow.
And the comment is different if you stealth sneak attack kill him and he never sees that you're the one who kills him. He still comments on the fact that someone killed him. Like, that's the level of detail this game has.
There is something for everyone in this game, I swear. And you can make it work with so many different classes, I've noticed. So many people I know who've played the game have different playstyles, and everybody loves how they approach it as well. Like, this is a game that really rewards you for role-playing.
It's so fun, because I have a bunch of friends who have been playing this game, who either got it when it first came out, or been slowly getting it over the course of the past few weeks, as it first released on PS5, eventually. And I swear everyone's picked a different class. Like, everyone just had some different aspect that like spoke to them and they wanted to play as, and no one's had a bad time. I've heard from some people that they feel the weakest class is Druid. Like, it didn't quite get a lot of the utility that Druid brings isn't really present in this game. Things like a lot of like social skills, like sending, for instance, just doesn't exist in this game because that'd be kind of weird. There are some changes made to make it work in a video game setting, and Druid the low end of the stick there. But they're still really fun. Like, even saying all of that, one of our friends, one of our the members of our community is playing a druid and is having a blast. Like, there really is no like wrong way to play this game.
Absolutely. And obviously the writing is absolutely fantastic. The character writing especially, everybody is so interesting in their own right. And this is without running into half of the other characters who will end up turning up later who we've heard little bits about. But yeah, it's like the Baldur's Gate series has never lacked for strong character writing. Like, it's always been fantastic. The voice acting in the Baldur's Gate games have always been brilliant because they've always had brilliant veteran voice actors voicing the various characters. Baldur's Gate 3 is no exception, and yeah, there's just so much fun to be had with this game.
It's interesting you mentioned veteran voice actors, because well, not all of them. A lot of the voice actors are still pretty like. This was kind of their big break for a lot of these voice actors, and they nailed it. They just hit it out of the park. Like, I guarantee you're going to hear some of these voices again down the line because of how well they did in this game.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, like, the voice acting is just absolute top quality. Larian made every effort that they could with this game in every single way. They took their time. They worked with the community on everything. They really pieced everything together. And what you have is a game that is clearly an absolute labor of love, and it is damn near perfect. Baldur's Gate 2, in my opinion, is the greatest video game ever made. Baldur's Gate 3, without even getting to the halfway point, is actually closing in on the crown for me. That's how much I love this game. And this is as somebody who sank closer to 2,000 hours than 1,000 hours in the Baldur's Gate 2 over the years. I have, like, literally over 20 playthroughs on that game. And this game is catching up already.
I'm going to say this. It's like, there are definitely some things. Every game has its little things here or there that are a little frustrating or something. There are some still issues with you aren't quite there yet. Act 3 has a couple glitches that can be annoying, but it's nothing that like completely ruins the game or breaks the game. And their studios has been doing such a good job at pushing out, bug fixes and hot fixes, adding some features that they couldn't quite get ready for the game in time for launch, and making sure they're there for the people who wanted them. Like, just recently, there was not too long ago, they had a patch that let you edit your character's appearance once the game has started, because previously, that wasn't an option. And doing what they can to make sure this is the best game they could put out. And in today's day and age of game development, gotta give some kudos for that. A lot of developers are just kind of pushing games out, letting people buy them, either bad, and then just abandoning the project. Looking at things like Redfall. A lot of games coming out recently, things that have been disappointing, and this was not one of them. This has been an amazing game. And consider this whole ranting and raving, me and Jack's sales pitch. We are unofficially acting as promoters for Larian Studio. Please play this game if you can. If you enjoy that kind of game, even if you don't think you will, maybe just look up a little, like, watch a little video of like the first area and get an idea, because this is just such worth the play.
Honestly, this game is a once-in-a-generation experience, in my opinion. This shows how great gaming can truly be. Developers everywhere should be taking notes of the love put in here. And you should see that gaming is about the art and not just what you can squeeze out of gamers. There's no microtransactions or anything like that involved in this game. This game is an absolute labor of love, and it shines in every second that you play of the game. It's fantastic. And honestly, like, okay, so without going into too much detail, I've been wanting to play the game for a while because a bunch of my friends already had the game. Even my younger brother managed to somehow get the game before me. And Boo here actually gifted me the game on Steam. And so thanks to his generosity, I've been having the absolute time of my life this entire week playing through the game. It's been fantastic. So thank you once again, Boo. I deeply, deeply appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. And hey, thanks for having me on the podcast this week. Unfortunate that Macon couldn't do much speaking this week, but I was glad to lend a hand and step in and try to make sure this podcast don't go completely off the rails without him.
Well, Boo, honestly, it was an absolute pleasure having you on. We would love to have you on again in the future if you would like to. Like, we're actually looking to get some more people on in the future to do more of a roundtable discussion rather than it just being the two of us. So if you ever want to be on again, we will be glad to have you.
Well, thank you. And if you ever want me back on, just shoot me a message, and I'll be happy to continue to talk about the world of BattleBots and this very entertaining sport that these incredibly talented people compete in. That it always blows my mind when I see some of the robotics at work.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, that comes to the end of the episode. It's been an absolute pleasure having you all here, and it's been great having my good friend Boo here as well. But until next time, he's Boo, I'm Jack. Take care, we love you, stay safe. Have a great one.
Bye!